Around the NBA, outside of the two teams in the finals, Dame Lillard still dealing with speculation. His future with the Blazers could be in doubt. Portland hiring Chauncey Billups, of course, as their new head coach last month. And according to our Adrian Wojnarowski today, Scott Brooks is finalizing a deal to become Billups' top assistant. Yesterday at Team USA practice, Lillard refused to take the bait when asked about his relationship with the team. Take a listen here.
But anything that I have to say, I'm going to say it directly to Neil, and I'm address it directly with my team. So I don't really have nothing to say to you guys about it. You know, it's a lot of things being said, and sometimes words being put in my mouth, and I haven't said anything.
All right, so Perk, first of all, that's very Dame, right? Mm-hmm. That being said, what do you think the future holds for him?
Look, he's going to start the season off in a Trailblazer uniform, I believe. I think he just don't want to speak on the situation because the last time he said something, you know, when they were asking him about the coaching hire and he voiced his opinion, he had to go back and forth with a few Twitter trolls and things like that, and people, newspaper writers from the Portland area. And I think Dame right now just want to be away from that. But I also think he's watching the front office and Neil very, very closely. You know, Chauncey was a great hire. That's a great first step. But now you have to make sure you get your roster straight. You know what I mean? You have to add those pieces to make him feel like, okay, we're moving in the right direction.
And look, I think this is a good situation for Dame because he learned to what Perk said. When you kind of like have that control where they're like openly saying like, what can we do to calm this situation? You're going to navigate that, but sometimes there are mistakes in navigating that. I think coming out and saying some things and having his words twisted, he was like, look, anything I say now will be directly to the GM. That way I know if any of this stuff gets out, I know who's responsible. And so I think this should be handled in-house. You might have to vocalize it outwardly so that they listen to you in-house, but I think he's doing exactly what he should do. He's discussing what's the best way to move forward with the Portland Trailblazers.
We will see what happens. A continuing story. All right, still ahead.
I mean, I think it's the right hire. Chauncey has been, knocking at the door for a while. Getting some experience with the Clippers. I think they made the right call. And in this kind of situation, you have to trust the Blazers that they've done their due process. They're going to continue to do it and make sure that everything is in good standing. But after that, I think for them, it's about keeping Dame. He is once in a generational talent. You want to make sure you do all that you can to make sure that you build all the best team around him because, he's in the peak of his powers right now. You want to take advantage of that for the city of Portland. And I think Chauncey can really, really come in, add some new energy, and most importantly, just get a shot and a crack at being a head coach in the NBA, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, I'm not going to crack any jokes about Perk, but look, this is the thing that I want to say about why I like this hire. Let's look at who Chauncey Billups is as an individual. This is a man that, after kind of bouncing around and finding his way and finding his home in Detroit, what was his hallmark? It was defense. It was how can we be kind of, Memphis is the grit and grind, but they were the kind of one of the originators that they brought back that really intense. We're going to be possession basketball. We're going to outwork you. That is what, in my opinion, the Portland Trailblazers have lost. They have all the sexy offense. Dame can give you 50. He can give you 60. He can do all that. But when you look at their defense, they're always one of the lower-ranked defensive teams. So you bring in a coach that has defensive mindset, that knows how to impact the game in that way. So if he can impact Dame in that way and impact the organization, I think now they can start to build something.
Well, I agree with you, RJ. When you look at Chauncey's resume, it's longer than a holiday weekend. And when you talk about what Dame is trying to go, what Dame is trying to accomplish, Chauncey has already accomplished that. An NBA champion as a player and a finals MVP. But also, we look around the league right now and look at what's going on with all the teams that are still playing. You look at the Clippers with Ty Lue, right? A coaching change. Now players have elevated their game. You look at at how Paul George is playing and the others around them. You look at the Atlanta Hawks with their coaching change. A new voice in the locker room changes everything. Even last night, we were talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, but I wanted to give more credit to Nate McMillan because he had those guys ready to play.
Yeah.
Defensively, they were locked in. Offensively, they were playing beautiful basketball. So with that being said, having a new voice in that locker room, a guy that played at the game of basketball at the highest level, an all-star, a champion, should be in the Hall of Fame. He can hold these guys accountable. They're going to score with the best of them, but to RJ's point, now you could get them back where they're playing defense and hold them accountable to that level so that they can win games and try to win a championship in Portland.
Look, the Damian Lillard factor is so huge here because there's been rumors, cryptic social media posts from Lillard. One reporter asked Blazers GM Neil O'Shea how he plans to keep Dame happy. Watch what he said.
Dame's happiness always revolves around winning, and having a chance to win at the highest level. The ultimate responsibility for that falls on me and my staff, to put a team together that we can walk into the beginning of the season think it has a chance to compete for a championship. Two things. It's one, making sure Dame's confident in that. Look, he loves Portland. Every conversation is he doesn't want to leave Portland. He wants to retire a Trailblazer. He's expressed that to me and the stakeholders in the company. And I told Dame, look, if you got to drive my butt every day to make sure we're out on a limb, we're taking risks, we're doing everything we can to build a roster that you feel and the rest of the guys on the team feel can walk in with the swagger knowing the roster is not going to be why they can't compete for a championship, that's on me.
Well, speaking of, here is a look at Portland's off-season outlook. Richard, there is a lot of pressure on the Blazers front office to do something this summer. Do you trust them to build a contender around Dame?
I do trust them in the sense that when you're starting with Dame, right, like, you got to fill in the pieces. It's like when you have a player, a lot of franchises don't even have a player that's a top 10 player like Dame Lillard, one of the best guards of this era, if you look at what he's capable of doing. So when you're starting there, that makes the job exponentially easier. So I do believe in that. And a lot of it is giving the player what they believe they need, but also putting people around them that will hold him accountable. And I think Chauncey Billups, I think bringing in Carmelo Anthony, I think those are big steps in the right direction, but they still have more to do.
Yeah, they have a lot. They have a lot to do, and it's just ironing out the wrinkles, in my opinion. Like even if you look at this year's team, you look at Nurkic lashing out about him not being happy, about not being part of the offense. See, that's a problem in itself. You want to bring guys in there not only that fits around Dame, but they're gonna buy into their roles and be stars in their roles, and not try to go outside their body. Because I actually think Nurkic is a good fit for this team when he decides to do his role. But if I'm Portland, I'm going out there and trying to fulfill the hardest position to get, and that's the wing position. You got to go get some type of wings that could defend and knock down threes. I know Norman Powell is good at that. He's a little smaller than what you would like, but to compete in the Western Conference against Paul George, against Kawhi Leonard, against LeBron James, you need those wing defenders.
I mean, I think, I think they will do their best to put together a championship contender. Will that happen? We have yet to see. But, you have to say the right things, right? You have to, and it really starts with up top, coming down from the general manager, and then hopefully that message gets resonated through the head coach. But with everything said, we all know Dame wants to win. We all know the Blazers want to win. And, let's be frank, they're right there. You can see that they're losing in situations to where you could have said, okay, if they had X amount of more pieces, they would have been able to be successful. So it's on them to figure those things out. The pressure is there. I think we can all, agree that it's about a 1 to 2 year window to see what happens. So it's great talking about it right now. They're going to have a hell of a plan for next year. And they're going to have to compete their butts off.
Yesterday, Yahoo Sports reported that the backlash to Lillard, along with his concerns of whether a title team can be built in Portland, are factors that could lead him to ask out eventually. Richard, that is a lot. How can the Blazers keep Dame happy?
Well, one, I want to talk about the backlash. Like, one, Dame gets asked a question. These are names that were out in the coaching search. Like, Dame,
Preach.
like, you are too good to allow. I saw one of his interactions and that he like quote tweeted the person is a Raptors fan. Don't let somebody that's not in your house dictate what goes on in your house, right? And so from that standpoint, you should really just focus in on what's going on within the Portland Trailblazer community. In my opinion, the next step about it is, what does he think about this hire, right? If you're worried about the backlash, that's one thing. If you're worried about can they build a championship contender, now we're talking about real tangible stuff. And I think they have the talent. I think they have the fan base. I think they have all the things necessary. They're just one or two pieces away, and I think that's what they need to focus on.
Well, RJ, I disagree with you on one point because everybody handles things differently,
Agreed.
right? So you may keep quiet. Dame is a guy that's outspoken, right? He has albums that he's dropped. We watched him go back and forth with Shaquille O'Neal on a rap battle. So Dame is not going to hold back. You come at Dame, he's going to come at you. Now, you're right. The organization asked him who he wanted, and he put two names out there, J. Kidd and Chauncey Billups. Here's the thing. I do think they can get better. I do think that they can make Dame happy for the simple fact that a new voice in the locker room changes everything. We just witnessed that with the Atlanta Hawks.
That's what I was
they got
saying.
rid of Coach Lloyd. All of a sudden, Coach Nate McMillan comes in.
Clippers.
The Clippers. The Hawks start playing completely different. Trae Young started playing completely different. Agenda-free basketball. You need someone like Chauncey that's going to be able to hold these guys accountable on the defensive side of things. Remember, the Portland Trailblazers couldn't guard a caged dog. They ranked close to dead last defensively. They did. They never struggled with scoring. They just couldn't guard anybody. So you bring Chauncey in there. What can you tell Chauncey if he holds somebody accountable? He could go toe-to-toe with Dame.
Yeah.
Right? He could go toe-to-toe with CJ. He could get the best out of Big Nurkic and say, don't ask for the ball on the block. Do your job. Rebound, block shots, roll to the basket.
Well, I agree. I completely agree. I just, when I was more referencing not Dame to not be outspoken, but it's just like, you don't let people worry. Do I ever give you advice of what's going on inside your home if you didn't ask me? No, exactly. So that's all I'm saying.
It's not our home, RJ.
It is, but that is his. But that is his home. When you're dealing with outrage on Twitter, which we all know about, is a very slippery slope. I don't want to hear it from a Raptors fan that like this. And so like, that was my thing about the outrage. Sometimes we got to take that with a grain of salt.
I do think that coaching can really change a roster, even quote the same roster. The Atlanta Hawks are a fantastic example. This is a team that wasn't even in playoff bracket contention months into the regular season, and then suddenly they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. And you can see, too, it kind of puts the lie to, oh, if that guy was on someone's staff, because, again, the Clippers and Hawks are great examples that there can be a coaching shift even when someone's on that staff. Chauncey Billups, to me, is a Hall of Famer. I think he should be in the Hall.
Preach.
I watched that man up close win a Finals MVP. He is a leader. He is someone that I watch now on the Clippers. He has changed the game of several players. He has been teaching Paul George to play point guard. I think that there are so many things that Chauncey is going to bring to the table that Dame specifically and that whole team in general will really, really respond to. I'm excited to see what happens here.